It was supposed to be a simple flight home, a few quiet hours above the clouds after a long week serving his country. But before the plane even left the runway, one woman's complaint would turn an ordinary trip into a moment the entire cabin would never forget. She said she didn't feel comfortable sitting next to him. No one could have guessed what would happen when the man she tried to humiliate finally stood up. And when he did, the whole plane went silent. The terminal buzzed with the usual airport chaos. Rolling suitcases, impatient sighs, and the occasional announcement echoing overhead. At gate B27, Marcus Ellison sat near the window, quietly reading a worn paperback. He looked like any other traveler. Black jacket, jeans, nothing fancy. To most, just another face in the crowd. But deep in his pocket rested something that told another story. A badge he never flashed unless he had to. Marcus was an FBI agent, a decade spent investigating civil rights violations and hate crimes. He'd seen the worst sides of humanity, but he still believed in decency. His late mother's words followed him everywhere. Keep your dignity where others lose theirs. As passengers lined up to board, a woman in her 50s stood behind him. Neat suit, pearl earrings, the kind who looked like she had somewhere important to be. She smiled politely until she saw her seat assignment. Her expression stiffened. Aboard the plane, Marcus took his aisle seat. The woman paused, eyes narrowing slightly before she waved down the attendant. "Excuse me," she murmured. "There must be a mistake. I can't sit here." The attendant smiled, double-checked and said, "No mistake, ma'am. Seat 14B is right beside him." The woman hesitated. I'd prefer another seat." Her voice carried, drawing glances. Marcus kept his eyes on his book, heart sinking but face calm. He'd seen this pattern before, the kind that starts small and swells before anyone realizes what's happening. Somewhere deep inside, he could already feel the story unfolding. The attendant's polite tone began to harden. "Ma'am, we're nearly ready for departure. Please take your seat." But the woman crossed her arms. "Move me or move him." A quiet hush fell over the surrounding rows. Passengers looked up, pretending not to stare. Phones lifted discreetly. Marcus didn't flinch. His stillness itself became its own kind of strength. The woman whispered sharply, words that made a few passengers shift uncomfortably. Marcus caught everyone but let them pass. "Control the fire," he reminded himself. The attendant signaled the head steward. Within minutes, a supervisor appeared, crouching beside Marcus first. "Sir, would you like to change seats?" Just to ease the tension. He shook his head. "No, ma'am. I'm fine where I am." His voice was calm, so calm that even nearby passengers seemed to lean in. Something about the way he said it hinted there was more to this man than met the eye. The supervisor turned to the woman. "Ma'am, this flight is full. We need you to sit down." Her tone sharpened. "You're telling me I have to sit next to him? This is ridiculous. I paid for this seat." A man 2 rows back muttered, "Lady, just sit down." Another whispered, "She's making a fool of herself." But she only clutched her purse tighter, eyes darting toward Marcus. "He's making me uncomfortable," she snapped. Marcus breathed in slowly. He'd seen the same fear disguised as superiority. Same look, different decade. Here we go again, he thought. The captain received word of the delay. Minutes ticked by. Tension grew thicker than the recycled air. Then the gate agent arrived. "What seems to be the issue?" The woman pointed directly at Marcus. "That man makes me feel unsafe." The agent blinked. "Unsafe? Has he said or done anything?" "No, but look at him," she said, voice trembling between fear and indignation. "He's glaring. He could be." Her sentence trailed off. The silence around her filled in the blanks. Marcus slowly set his book aside. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "I assure you you're safe." His tone was measured, neither angry nor apologetic. That only made her fluster more. People were recording now. The story had an audience, and somewhere the turning point was approaching. Marcus exhaled and stood. Every head turned. He reached into his jacket, slow, deliberate, calm. For an instant, even the woman's breath caught. She stepped back slightly. Then came the flash of light. Gold. Engraved. Unmistakable. The cabin fell silent as Marcus held out his FBI badge. "My name is Agent Marcus Ellison," he said quietly. "Federal Bureau of Investigation, Civil Rights Division." The gate agent blinked, stunned. The flight attendant froze mid-motion. The woman's color drained. You're FBI?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, ma'am. And you just tried to have a federal officer removed from this flight because of the color of his skin." The words cut through the air, heavy as thunder. Passengers exchanged shocked glances. Someone whispered, "Wow!" Another murmured, "Now that's justice." Marcus didn't gloat. He simply slipped the badge back into his jacket. "Let's all take our seats," he said softly. "We've got a flight to catch." No one spoke. The woman sat stiffly, eyes forward, her earlier authority shrinking into silence. The engines roared to life and the plane began to taxi. Yet as they lifted off, Marcus couldn't help thinking about how small a spark it took to expose a fire hidden beneath polite smiles. Sometimes dignity speaks louder than confrontation ever could. Hours later, as the plane landed and the seatbelt signs chimed, passengers rose in near silence. A few stopped by Marcus's seat. One man offered a handshake. A woman whispered, "Thank you for how you handled that." Marcus nodded humbly. "Safe travels," he said. The woman who'd caused it all lingered, waiting until the aisle cleared. When she finally turned toward him, her voice was small. I'm sorry." He looked at her, his tone firm but not cruel. "Apologies matter only if they change what comes next." She nodded quickly and left. As Marcus stepped into the terminal light, he paused near the window. A family laughed nearby, the kind of simple peace he wished more people could experience without fear or judgment. Later that evening, he sat in his small apartment, the sun dipping low behind the city skyline. On his desk sat a framed photo of his mother. He smiled softly. "Keep your dignity where others lose theirs," she'd said. And once again, she'd been right. He didn't think of the flight as a victory. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about showing what grace under pressure really means, and reminding those who watch that true strength doesn't shout. Stands tall, silent, unbroken. Because racism doesn't always come in anger. Sometimes it hides in quiet assumptions, in a single glance, in the seat beside you. And sometimes, justice doesn't need to make noise, it just needs to stand up. Every flight tells a story. That day's flight told one the world won't forget. That character is colorless, and respect shouldn't need a badge.